In the heart of Los Angeles, tucked between towering buildings, stood an old movie theater called the Royale. It had been closed for years, its once bright marquee now faded and broken. People whispered that the theater was cursed. Strange. Lights flickered inside at night, and some claimed to hear distant voices when the wind blew. Despite the warnings, a group of 5 friends decided to sneak inside. They wanted to explore the truth behind the rumors and prove the ghost stories were fake. The night was unusually quiet as they stood in front of the rusting doors. The city. Noise faded behind them, leaving only the creak of the sign swaying in the breeze. Each of them felt a mix of excitement and fear, but none wanted to be the first to back down. With a shared nod, Jake, the leader, pushed open the doors, and they stepped into the darkness beyond. The friends, armed with flashlights and phones, pushed open the heavy doors. The smell of dust and decay hit them immediately. The lobby was cold, much colder than the warm Los Angeles night outside. Torn movie posters hung on the peeling walls. As they moved deeper, the sound of their footsteps echoed eerily. "This place gives me the creeps," whispered Emily, the youngest of the group. Her voice trembled slightly, but she followed the others into the main auditorium. The air was thick and musty, as if the building itself had been holding its breath. Each step they took kicked up small clouds of dust that shimmered in their flashlight beams. Faded popcorn containers lay scattered across the floor, their contents long turned to powder. Somewhere in the distance, a faint scratching sound echoed, but when they turned their lights toward it, nothing was there. The auditorium was massive and silent. Rows of red velvet seats stretched toward the cracked movie screen. Dust danced in the beams of their flashlights. "Let's go to the projection room," suggested Jake, the leader of the group. He wanted to find the old projector rumored to turn on by itself. As they climbed the narrow staircase, a chill ran down their spines. The air grew heavier, and the sound of faint, distant laughter seemed to drift through the walls. Each creak of the steps beneath their feet sounded impossibly loud in the stillness. As they reached the top, Lisa swore she saw a shadow move at the edge of her vision, but when she turned, there was nothing but darkness. The door to the projection room stood slightly ajar, as if someone or something was waiting for them. When they reached the projection room, the door creaked open slowly. Inside, old reels of film lay scattered across the floor. The projector, a rusted beast of metal, stood silent. "It looks harmless," said Lisa, but as soon as she spoke, the projector roared to life. The machine clattered and spun without anyone touching it. The friends froze as black and white images flickered on the screen below. The picture showed an old horror movie. But the faces on the screen seemed strange, too real and too terrified. Emily clutched Jake's arm, her nails digging into his skin. "Turn it off," she hissed, but no one dared move. The air inside the room grew colder, heavy with an unseen presence. Each flicker of the film seemed to pulse through the walls as though the theater itself was coming to life around them. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. "Who did that?" gasped David, his hands shaking. No one had touched the door. Emily tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. The laughter grew louder, filling the small room. From the corner, a shadow began to form, growing taller and darker. "We need to get out of here," Lisa cried, banging on the door. The shadow moved closer, its outline shifting like smoke, and the temperature dropped until their breath turned to mist. The friends huddled together, their hearts pounding in their chests. Every attempt to open the door failed, as if the building itself was holding them captive. The shadow's form twisted unnaturally, stretching long fingers toward them. Each breath felt heavier, as if something unseen was pressing down on their chests. Jake pulled out his phone to call for help, but the screen flickered and died. One by one, their devices shut off. Panic filled the room as the shadow reached toward them. Just when they thought they were trapped, the door burst open on its own. They ran down the staircase, their hearts pounding. But as they reached the auditorium, The movie screen still played. Only now, the faces on the screen were their own, twisted in terror. Emily screamed as she saw herself, her mouth frozen wide, in a silent cry. The shadow seemed to follow them, its presence curling at the edges of the theater like black smoke. No matter how far they ran, the laughter echoed through the walls, chasing them like a ghostly whisper they couldn't escape. "We have to leave," David urged, dragging Emily toward the exit. But the front doors were locked tight. No matter how hard they pushed, they wouldn't open. "We shouldn't have come here," Lisa whimpered. Behind them, the sound of footsteps echoed, but no one was there. The friends huddled together, their fear growing with each passing second. From the ceiling, the faint voice of a child whispered, "Stay with us. Forever." Jake tried to break a window with a chair, but the glass wouldn't crack. Every attempt to escape seemed impossible, as though the theater itself wanted to keep them trapped. Emily closed her eyes and prayed silently, hoping they would find a way out before the shadow found them again. A cold wind swept through the theater, sending the doors of the concession stand slamming open and shut. Jake spotted an emergency exit sign glowing faintly at the back. "This way!" he shouted. They dashed toward it, but as they pushed the door open, a blinding white light consumed them. For a moment, everything was silent. When they opened their eyes, they were outside, standing in the alley behind the theater. The building was dark again, as if nothing had happened. The air outside felt strangely warm compared to the icy chill they had left behind. No one dared speak as they hurried away, each step feeling heavier, as if the theater's grip lingered even beyond its walls. Shaking and breathless, they fled the alley without looking back. When they finally reached safety, Jake checked his phone. The time had not changed. It was as if they had never entered the theater. Did that really happen?" Emily asked, in a shaky voice. None of them had an answer. But as they turned to leave, the marquee lights flickered on. 3 words glowed brightly. "Welcome back soon." Even from a distance, they could hear the faint echo of laughter following them long after they disappeared into the night. None of them ever returned, but they never forgot the shadowy figure that had almost claimed them. The friends never spoke of that night again. The Royale remained abandoned, but strange stories continued to spread. Some said the theater was a trap for the curious, pulling them into its ghostly clutches. Others believed the spirits of those who died there still roamed the halls, waiting for their next victims. But one thing was certain: no one who entered the Royale ever left unchanged. Late at night, people passing by claimed they still saw flickering lights and heard faint whispers. And sometimes, just sometimes, the marquee would light up, as if inviting new souls to step inside and join the endless show.